because I had 2 children so quickly, and I basically just put my grief on hold. I didn't have time to, with babies, you don't have time to think, let alone, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't allow myself that time. So it was a while that it just all got shifted over, and when my little boy was 18 months old, and they was both sleeping through, and I was starting to feel rested, and I returned to work, and that's when I started to fall apart. 4 years, 3.5, 4 years later, and I'm falling apart and, in tears all the time. So, and that's when I found the Compassionate Friends, and I said to my husband, I don't want to be this for my children, or for you, and I need to give myself a chance here, and I need to sort through my feelings. So that was why I sought that.
Family was the really outstanding thing that helped us, and people being supportive, just doing what they could and being there for us, just being there. And then people sent messages. One was an acquaintance in the United States, and it was amazingly worded. When I've gone back over it, it doesn't look that special, but at the time it hit the mark. And in it she also mentioned the Compassionate Friends. And at the time I didn't think I needed the Compassionate Friends, but later on that turned out to be helpful for us.
I never thought it would be as positive as it has been to me. I kind of thought I'd just go along and it'd be an opportunity to, I don't know, I thought I'd just go there and cry, and and I went along and we laughed, and it's a place where I feel like I've made some really wonderful friends, and it's a place that I feel safe, and I know that no matter what I say, people understand and they listen, and just being able to share my story and hear others, their stories, it's so healing.
My father had been buried and his life had finished. My mother was rehabilitated and back at home, and she got very ill, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I literally couldn't mentally cope anymore, and I went onto the internet and I just typed in something like Carers Australia, or I'd seen pamphlets about caring, and there was a 24-hour number, and I dialed that and proceeded to just emotionally unload, and they were wonderful. They weren't going to let me hang up, and they were very compassionate and considerate people on the other end of the phone, and that was the key that set me onto a path of healing.
Because I live on my own, I don't have my own family, I felt the impact even more. I felt it was greater. I felt even more alone because my father was my best friend. And losing your best friend and somebody you confide in is not there anymore. So I didn't have him to ring and sit with and talk to, and so I felt I was alone. I didn't feel that I could confide in my 2 sisters because they were grieving as well. So I looked for counselling.
Counselling is a very interesting process because initially my carer coordinator, once I'd presented myself and asked for help, well, that phone call set off a chain reaction of events where I was placed under a carer coordinator. She organised some counselling for me, and it just didn't seem to be working. The counsellor and myself just seemed to be not happening, not coming together. The carer coordinator identified that, and with the skills she had and her empathy and compassion in her job, she recommended maybe we could try a different track and try some bereavement counselling. Hence, I started bereavement counselling, and that was just amazing. There was someone who was professionally trained, who had the time, all the time in the world, to listen to how I was feeling, listen to what I'd been through, just listen to all my distress, and at the same time be able to guide me and advise me in the context of hope. And the counselling was just crucial. I only had 3 bereavement counselling sessions, but that was enough for me to take home that conversation, that episode of counselling, and I would work on that in my mind. Everything that was said and done, none of that was left unused. I would just go over it and over it, and I would use what was said and what I'd done to grow, to pull out of the emotional turmoil that I was bogged in. So counselling I found just fantastic, but the important thing I learned was that if one counsellor doesn't work, another may.
Talking to someone who's not going to be judgmental and who's willing to listen is helpful rather than keep it inside. And I do have one good friend that I can talk to about that, and only because her husband's passed away and she's relating to me, and I relate to her grief as well.
Mary was really good early on, always probably, but if I looked like I was in a bad moment, Mary would straight about way be there with a hug. And that readiness of support made a big difference. It wasn't ever a matter of, I'm busy. It was warm and immediate. So that kind of readiness of support between us, I think, made a difference. And also sometimes we've strongly reaffirmed to each other that having each other and looking after each other and loving each other, these things are really important. And that affirmation has been really helpful.